What's up, guys? What's going on? I'm Paul. This is Pauline Theology's daily devotional, man. And we are going through the book of John. We are in John chapter 19. We're going to go through verse 32 and 34. 32 through 34. So if you haven't read it yet, go ahead and stop the tape, see what it's about, come back. We're going to answer some questions, man. If you've already read it, then we're going to go ahead and get to it, man. Let's wait no further. Let's jump into the scriptures. So what's going on in this section that we're reading? Well, we read in the last episode where the Jews come to Pilate and they ask him to take the bodies down because it's the day of the great feast. And one of the things that I mentioned that I didn't go into detail about, but I will today because it's what the scripture covers, is that they did it, right? So the Jews asked Pilate to take the bodies down, and in these verses here it says that the soldiers went to him and they started breaking the legs of the people that were on the cross, the two besides Jesus. And they said that when they came to Jesus, they didn't do that, man. But it says that one of the guys took a spear and stabbed Jesus in the side, and blood and water immediately came out. So two things that's going on is the reason they're breaking these legs is because this hastens death. This causes death to happen sooner, because what the biggest pain or the way that they die is they be exhausted and then they get asphyxiated or they suffocate because they can't get breath into their lungs. And so to make that faster, they break their legs. When their legs are broken, they can't hoist themselves up to be able to breathe. And see, that was part of the pain, is that as they hoist themselves up, this is very painful. But they could find breath and they continued to live. But whenever they did not have anything to hold themselves up, hence the breaking of the legs, then they suffocated. And this caused death quickly. Now, what is so surprising when I say that they did it is that they did it. This is not the normal way in which crucifixion happens. What happens is they let the body stay up there for a long time and let all the animals and the birds feast upon the rotten corpses for days and days, man. Even before they die, like I said, them pulling themselves up, that their bodies are so weak, they seem to be dead. And so animals come and they start biting and feeding on their bodies. It was part of the torture of the death. And also the fact that they left them up there, all the people that walked by and saw this, because this was a public thing, would see this and not defy Rome. And so in order for Pilate to actually take down the bodies on the same day, that is incredible. That can only be attributed to the sovereignty and power of God. So even in the midst of this Jewish people seeking to find their own salvation, God, who provided salvation on the cross at that time by dying, is still actively in control, sovereignly in control, allowing these body to be taken down where it will not be defiled by these animals. We'll see later on there's a scripture that John alludes to adding to this, and it talks about the protection that God has for the righteous. Jesus is truly righteous, even on the cross as he dies with criminals. He is truly righteous. And then next it says that they came to Jesus and they saw that he was dead. Again, last episode I think we talked about the fact that in these times that this was written was that people didn't believe that Jesus was actually 100% human being. And so John clearly states he died. And we went through 1 John and we talked about it. It says being a witness to see that he was man and that they saw him die and resurrect. And so this is an aspect of his humanity showing that Jesus died. And the way we know that is true is because he emphasizes it. Matter of fact, it says that one of the soldiers stabbed him and blood and water came out immediately. And this blood and water is an indication of the fact that he truly is dead. So we see where it says that Jesus gave up his spirit, that he handed himself over to the Father and left this earth. But we see again that an example that blood and water flowed. And what's cool about this is that obviously I don't, I'm not sure, but John probably has no idea of the medical or physical way in which death could occur. But in modern day, now we look at that and see what John has written about blood and water flowing after this, and there is evidence that shows that Jesus was dead. In fact, he was already dead whenever they inflicted this wound upon him. And so it's kind of like an evidence of evidence. That's pretty cool to see, and because some people sometimes don't trust or believe in the scriptures, but John evidences this in his writing, and later on we come back with medical examination to see that this lines up perfectly. That's pretty cool. But another thing that I want to talk about, which we'll also see later on as we continue in this scripture, is what the blood and water means. Because John writes this as a spiritual book. A lot of people call this a spiritual gospel, as in comparison to the other ones where it's narrative focused. This truly is what happened. It's a narrative and historical. But we talked about in a couple of episodes a cosmological versus a historical understanding of what John is writing in this, which he has put so much symbolism, as we've seen and we've talked about throughout the scriptures, throughout this time reading through these scriptures. And so when we talk about blood and water, what might this symbolize? I think that it is a picture, and we'll see this later on too, is that the blood is a picture of the sacrifice that Jesus has made. The death, the Passover lamb, the lamb who was slain for the sins of the world. And the water, and we've seen this as well earlier, that what it means is the Spirit, the purity, the cleansing of the Spirit that comes to unite us with the Father. So what we have is in the death of Jesus, immediately it says that in the death of Jesus, we find our salvation through his death and our joining with him through his Spirit. That's what we see. So what does this say about God? Is that God truly is man. He has died. That he seeks to unite us, keeps his promises, man, because he says he's going to give his Spirit. And so through the blood and the water, we see that he is taking care as the shepherd of his people. He is taking care of us and provides us with the Spirit. Provides us with his Spirit. What's this say about man? That even in our own devices, God is using us. Even in our own devices. When we do what we think is best, it may not be best, and most of the time it's not. God still uses those things, our volition, to accomplish his tasks on this earth. You see, that guy just stabbed Jesus when they already knew that he was dead, probably being cruel, not just to verify the death of Jesus, probably just being cruel because he was a cruel person. The Roman soldiers tended to be that way. But in his cruelty, he demonstrates to us now who live beyond that time the reality of the death of Jesus. And then how do we apply these truths to our lives? I think that we understand the sovereign control of God. That God sovereignly is in control of all things. We've seen that through the fact that they take the body down. This is not normal, but God in his sovereignty moved for this to happen. They don't break the legs of Jesus. When normally this is what happens. They stab Jesus. All of these things show the sovereignty of God. So understanding the sovereignty of God, let's live in it. All these soldiers, all these people, all these things are acting on their own accord, but God is graciously moving them to show us now who he is. Let's be a part of that. Let's be a part of it. So right now in your life, is there anything going on where you need to release the reins? Let them go. Let them go. Release them. And put them in the hands of a sovereign God who loves you and demonstrated it by his death on the cross. Hey, I appreciate you guys for listening. And I'll see you in the